Hello everyone! So today I'll be talking about something a bit different from what I normally do, which is Vanguard Zero. And instead I'll be talking about the actual trading card game, which is Cardfight Vanguard. Specifically, this is a standard deck profile of a new upcoming deck that will be released in VBT08 for Dimensional Police, which is the Bloodblack Metalborg deck. So yeah, without further ado, let's just jump right into it. This is the current deck list that I'm usually using, and all the numbers. If you don't really care about why I play these, you can just take the deck list. The trigger lineup is a bit behind, so yeah, I have used Cardfight Area, which is basically just a fan-made version of Vanguard that can be played online, which currently Bushiroad doesn't really do that. They only have remote fight, which is kind of stupid and kind of dumb. But other than that, yeah. So currently I've used Cardfight Area to test this deck out, and it is a very tempo deck. It definitely feels better than the Dailiner, Daiyusha deck that we used to have, the D-Robos deck that was so prevalent during VEB08. So yeah, this has a similar feeling. It doesn't have the natural critical of Dailiner, and you can't really go Force 2 in this deck because you rewrite so many times, and those rewrites without the Force 1 markers, you don't have the enough power to be able to pressure your opponent. But it's just a good tempo deck to just beat down your opponent until they are 5 damage. Just slowly get your opponent to 5 damage so that your force markers can just do a lot of work. And of course you have to check criticals to be able to push your opponent to 5 damage. But overall it's still a very good deck, and it's comparatively budget. There aren't any VRs, but there are a number of triple Rs and double Rs, and well, probably a pretty expensive promo in the future, but I still like the deck. Now, the full set hasn't been released, so we don't know all of the cards in this set, but I am pretty satisfied with the current deck list that I currently have, which is from all the cards that have been revealed so far, and from the previous set, as well as promos that have been released, as in the one very big one is going to be very expensive, and D-Police is good. So anyway, let's just talk about why I chose these cards, and why I chose them at the amounts they had. So firstly, we have our main boss monster, our turn 3 right target, Bloodblack. Now his skill is up top over there. It's just really shitty Photoshop of the Wikipedia skill over the card text, but yeah, that's his skill. The first ability gives your front row 10k. It's basically great Daiyusha's on-place ability, but it's an act, so you can put your units down before your great Daiyusha. You can just put your units down first before anything. So cool. Your front row gets 10k boost. In total, that is a 30k boost to your front row, which is pretty damn strong, and it helps your Vanguard reach certain power thresholds which you don't necessarily have to reach, because it is easily reached if you just place your first Force 1 marker on your Vanguard circle. For example, Quilt requires your Vanguard to be a 30k Vanguard. And the only other thing that is a bit difficult to hit is your Daizorus, which is 35k. You will need a bit more work for that. Either stack 2 force markers on your Vanguard circle, or use something like Die Brave to give your Vanguard 5k, or use your Twin Order, which we'll talk about him later. He's just such an amazing card. So yeah. Anyway, Bloodblack is our main great turn 3 right target, especially for his second skill, which is at the end of the battle and attack, check top 7, search for up to 1 grade 3 from among them, and if your opponent is a grade 3, you can drop 2 cards from your hand, rewrite, and rewrite Vanguard gets power plus 10k, drive -1. So yeah, it's basically an extra Vanguard attack, which is incredibly strong. I mean, this card is basically great Daiyusha, but way better, because first, it can be used on turn 3. It is less It can be used on turn 3 if you start second. It is less counterblast heavy. So because you don't necessarily need the first ability to be able to proc the restand, but of course it helps since it gives your front row 10k. But yeah, so it is basically just a better version of Daiyusha. You can rewrite anything. The only thing you can't rewrite into is himself because, well, you'll be able to loop that card's ability multiple times. So that's gonna be a bit annoying. It's gonna be a Riviera 2.0, but luckily Bushi didn't do that. I wish they gave a hard once per turn skill for it instead, but whatever, it's fine. So 4 Vanguard attacks is decent, but you do get a -1 since the drive you discard 2 and then your second Vanguard swing will be only 1 drive. But yeah, so it is technically worse than Great Daiyusha, which is a solid +1, since Great Daiyusha has twin drive when he rewrites. So why do you still want to play him? Well, because you can actually push 5 attacks with this deck. Why? Because of our second grade 3. That's why it's the Bloodblack Metalborg deck. The Metalborg Sinbuster. Well, Sinbuster, he was a cool guy from Legion era. I didn't play during Legion era, but I still like his art. He's basically D-Police. He's always cool. But enough about his art. Let's talk about why he's good. And you mainly use him for his first skill, which is on play, search your deck for your Metalborg Buster. Yeah, that's the name. And you call it the Rearguard Circle. And yeah, that's just a really solid skill. It's basically Dragonic Overlord, the Great, but instead of calling from drop zone, you call straight from deck, which is even better, to be honest. So yeah, but if you are pretty keen, you're pretty keen-eyed in this video, you'll be able to see the combo already, which is attack with Bloodblack, rewrite into this guy, and then call your Buster for an extra attack. So what you can do is your first wave of attacks, you smack with one of your rear guards, then after that you smack with your Vanguard Bloodblack, then with Bloodblack you rewrite into Sinbuster, and then with Sinbuster you call over the rest of the rear guard and call your Buster for a 5th attack. Now, yeah, overall just generally strong, and he is a decent backup right target if you don't hit your Bloodblack, since he is a solid +1 onto field and he does have quite a bit of power on him. So yeah, his second skill, I mean, you can use it sometimes. The guard restrict honestly doesn't matter too much, since PGs are usually grade 0s, but it can cuck some decks that have grade 1 PGs, for example, Claret Sword Dragon. So yeah, IPUS, but overall, if you want to use it, you use it for the +10k power, which allows you to hit power thresholds, such as Daizorus, which is 35k, or Platinum Ace, etc, etc. So yeah, we play 4 of him because we want to hit him as much as possible and as a grade 3 target for Bloodblack. So cool. Now that is our 2 main grade 3s. And what will be our supporting grade 3? Well, as you can see from the deck list, it is Dimensional Robo Daizorus. Daizorus is just a really key card, even during Dailiner, especially during Premium, and now in the new Bloodblack Metalborgs deck. So yeah, why is Daizorus good? Well, he's basically just a +1. Wait, no, he's not +1. He is just a filter. Call him down, shove him to soul, and then you give your Vanguard another drive, which is the best filter possible. So yeah, and that filter is pretty damn useful in this deck, since you do not naturally plus a lot, and you actually minus quite a bit, and your second wave attack only has 1 drive, so it is a bit harder to hit triggers. The extra drive check from Daizorus' skill will be incredibly helpful, and with the introduction of Twin Order and cards like Die Brave, you can hit the 35k power way easier than you can do in something like Dailiner or something. So yeah, and you don't really mind losing him as in shoving him into soul, since it now creates an empty rearguard circle for you to call your Buster once you rewrite. So usually what you want to do is you have this guy on his field, you attack with him first, use his skill to counterblast once, shove the soul, give Bloodblack another drive check, and then after that you call over, and then now you ride over, and now the empty circle that was once occupied by Daiyusha can now be occupied by Urbuster, which he himself is just a really good card. So yeah, that's basically why we play Daiyusha. I mean, the 10k boost, cool, but usually your opponent will be either PGing the attack or eating the attack anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So yeah, that is why we play 2 Daiyusha. I mean, you don't really want to ride him, because he's nothing but a big beast stick, and you no longer have to reach power thresholds, or you no longer have to reach very high power thresholds, so it doesn't matter too much. So yeah, we play 2 of him. Now that's our grade 3s done. Let's move on to our grade 2s. Our grade 2s, we first have 4 Platinum Ace. Now as you can see from the card text ability, it is Vanguard, it gets 5k continuous during your turn. This is good. 15k meter on your grade 2 turn as the Vanguard. It forces your opponent to drop a 20k shield for a no pass, even more if you have a booster behind it, but usually your opponent will be no guarding your turn 2, etc, etc. But what we're really interested in is Platinum Ace's second skill, which is on attack, if your Vanguard is 30k or more power wise, you can Soul Blast 1, it gets 10k and a crit. Very good. In this deck, you don't really have any natural crit other than this guy, so the extra crit pressure is incredibly helpful, and you can stack force markers on it, the extra 10k power from Bloodblack's boost, you can stack triggers on it to make this guy pretty damn big. Usually he'll be a minimum 28k with a booster. He'll be a minimum 38k with a booster, assuming you use Bloodblack's skill. So yeah, that's why we play him, because he's our main form of pressure, just an important piece to pressure our opponent, especially if they're on 4 damage. They'll be forced to guard this one attack instead of being able to take the damage and just go to 5, have more counter blast for their next turn plays, or just save hand cards. This card just pressures your opponent so much. So yeah, that's why we play him at 4 copies. So the next card is Metalborg Urbuster. Urbuster, well, we play him just for the multi-attack potential, but he has a really decent skill as well, which is just on place. If your Vanguard is a Metalborg, which is basically either himself or your grade 3 Metalborg, the grade 3 backup right target, blah blah blah, your rewrite target, blah blah blah. Yeah, basically you can just Soul Blast 1, retire one of your opponent's rear guards, and get 10k power. That's just a really solid skill. It gives DP quite a bit of removal, which helps against some matchups where they just have very powerful pieces on field, and instead of attacking them with a rear guard, which is a waste of 1 attack per se, you can just Soul Blast 1 and retire them. For example, in something like, if you're playing against something like Shadows, and your opponent only has like 1 or 2 domains on field because they sack their other domains, you can just Soul Blast 1 and remove that domain, remove that advantage engine. Or something a bit more realistic is something like against DI, Killer Tail. I mean, currently DI isn't in a very good spot if you've seen the badness, but Killer Tail will still be a very important piece. It's just a good CC engine. But what's important is that she's only 1 copy most of the time, since you want 3 of her in Soul. So being able to just sack that Killer Tail is really helpful. And that 10k boost, also really helpful. So yeah, but we mainly play him for the multi-attack potential, and yeah, that's basically what you want to play for him, because you don't want to see so many copies go into damage zone or into hand, since you can only call from deck. So yeah, 4 copies. Next, we have 3 of a new guy, Daidumper. Daidumper, well, he has a similar piece. He's just a beat stick, to be honest. He's just a 20k beat stick on rear guard. His Vanguard ability, it helps sometimes if your hand is insanely full of grade 3, but it honestly doesn't matter too much. You mainly want to use him as a beat stick, and the fact that he can retire himself, leaves an open rearguard circle for you to call your Earthbuster, so you don't have to minus a lot from field. I used to play Dragon in this spot, but to be honest, both have the same amount of power, but Dragon requires your Vanguard to be of a power threshold, while Dumper only has to retire himself, which you will probably do so anyway, since you have to call over him. So yeah, it also helps against something like a Narukami matchup where instead of getting your front row can just be empty most of the time, where you can just use this guy as a pressure on turn 2 or even turn 2 onwards to just pressure your opponent, but your opponent won't be able to punish you as Narukami. So yeah, that's why we play him. We play 3 because space is a bit limited in this deck. So yeah, now that's our grade 2s done. Let's go to our grade 1s. So firstly, we have 4 Brave. Brave is just an incredibly decent card. The first ability, well, it comes up sometimes. As I said, your Bloodblack usually will be 33k, so it needs that 5k boost in order to hit 38k, to hit over 35k, so that you can proc something like Daiyusha. But usually you have something like Twin Order, which I'll talk about later, to hit over that 35k threshold to be able to proc Daiyusha's ability. So yeah, but we mainly use him for his filter per se, or his filter slash soul charge or whatever, where when you attack, your Vanguard's attack hits, you can just shove him into soul and you draw a card. Just a really decent skill. So yeah, just a decent card. He will get reprinted in the new collection set or something. He's getting reprinted along with Platinum Ace, at least for the Japanese side, which is what I play. So good luck for your English players, and yeah, just a really solid card. And he can be used for your turn 3/turn 4, your Bloodblack play, since you can put him in the front row, and then if your Bloodblack hits, you just shove him into soul, draw 1, and then leave the open rearguard circle for your Earthbuster to be called from your Sinbuster. Yeah, that too, just good card. Next, we run 4 of the new Twin Order. Well, yeah, kind of new. Technically, it's already about a month old, but you know, COVID-19. So yeah, Twin Order is just a really solid card. On boost, your Vanguard gets 10k for each imaginary gift you have, and in this deck, well, you rewrite so many times that you have you rewrite a lot. You have a lot of force markers on field, and that extra 10k will allow you to basically force more shield from your opponent's hand, or force your opponent to guard the attack, or if they really cannot guard the attack, no guard, check some triggers to deal even more damage to your opponent. So yeah, Twin Order also helps you reach some power thresholds. For example, your Daiyusha's threshold, which is 35k, and it's free. It's just a good card. What else is there to say? It is a promo, so it's a bit hard to get, but still, it's a good card. What else do I have to say? So yeah, next we run 4 Quilt. Now, Quilt, basically, she's our plus engine. You don't really bother with the first skill, like sure, it's cool, but you already reach power threshold so easily that it doesn't matter. But you mainly use her for the Count Blast 1, Draw 1 ability. She's actually pretty damn useful in this deck. Unlike in something like Dailiner, Daiyusha, you don't use a lot of Counter Blast in this deck, so you don't really need to worry about that. And you actually don't really need Counter Blast at all to make your main play. It's just your main play, which is the rewrite and multi-attack. Rewrite and multiple attack. It doesn't cost any Counter Blast on the Bloodblack. God, I can't talk. Bloodblack's skill, Bloodblack's rewrite doesn't require you to have any Counter Blast. And the discard 2 doesn't even matter, since you twin drive and it's end of battle. So, and then Metal Sinbuster's skill is completely free, and yeah. Well, and yeah, so you have quite a bit of Counter Blast to spare, and this deck is slightly piece reliant. You still need to draw into something like Platinum Ace for your power plays, Daiyusha to get more drive checks, etc, etc. So getting a plus off is just really helpful, since this deck doesn't, other than from triggers, it doesn't plus a lot. So yeah, so that's it for the deck. Now we still have trigger lineup, and our trigger lineup, pardon the correction, I just screwed up in Photoshop. So for our trigger lineup, we have 6 draw, 4 of course being draw PGs, 4 heals, and then 6 crits. We need the draws because, again, we don't plus a lot from this deck, and despite how much we need the critical triggers to be able to put more pressure on an opponent, we really would rather have the plus from the draw triggers instead, to draw into pieces, draw into higher shield values, so that we can survive our opponent's turn. So yeah, that is the deck and the trigger lineup, etc, etc. So now we'll be moving on to a game from Cardfight area. So on Cardfight area, so yeah, let's go. Now let's just get right into the game. I don't really want to make this I want to make this as quick as possible, so because this has already been like 20 freaking minutes because of all my stuttering and all. So well, let's just jump right into the game here. So unfortunately for us, we start second and we have to G assist, which is always bad, and our hand isn't looking very good as well. So because, well, we don't even have our main right target, which is Bloodblack, in our hand. So that's kind of difficult for us. Yeah, and we're playing against Beast Deities. Now they are using the new order that they have revealed, which is basically the Grade 3 order that restands one of your rear guards or unlocks one of your rear guards. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And yeah, our first few turns are very passive. We just attack our opponents, and our opponent just attacks us with Beast Deity. Now, I am using the replay feature from Cardfight area, so we can see both our own hand and our current opponent's hand. So yeah, other than that, cool. So we did draw into Bloodblack, luckily, but our current hand is kind of shit. We have 2 Sin Busters in hand, and we have one Buster, so we won't be using him for any plays. And we do pull off the drive check ability from the triple drive from Daiyusha, and at our top 7 we do hit our Daiyusha, so that's cool. And we rewrite into our Sin Buster, which is also very cool. So cool. Gosh, I should do better at commentary. Anyway, we do pull off our 5 attacks, but I am a bit stupid. I didn't put the force marker on the other rear guard, on my Buster, so you can hit over the defensive that our opponent checked over here. So yeah, that's a bit of a small brain on my part, but it's fine. We are still able to push for quite a bit of shield from our opponent's hand, and still be able to push for quite a bit of damage. As you can see, Platinum Ace doing work, forcing our opponent to drop 30k shield from his hand. But I mean, as you can see, our opponent has a pretty big hand right now. So yeah, and it's full of PGs. So he plays Adamski or whatever it's called, and he just shoots us for 1 damage, but we do get the defensive, so his other attacks will have a harder time dealing with it. So we go for a 2-pass on a Vanguard against our opponent's Vanguard, and he checks double critical trigger, so that's a yikes. We are forced to guard the Grade 1 Beast Deity twice, since he can restand, and yeah, it is yikes. But we drop all our shield for that turn, and we had to intercept for the first attack, since if we had not reused the 15k shield, the critical trigger we had in hand instead, he would have just attacked with the boomerang at the rear guard circle, and then yeah, we don't have enough shield in hand, as we only have 10k shield, not including our interceptor remaining. So cool. So we do our Bloodblack plays again here. We get the Grade 3, we get the restand off, we get our 5 attacks. I did do a bit of a misplay. I should have attacked with the Daiyusha instead to get a bit more value, but overall it's nothing but fine. So it's nothing bad. So we attack with Daiyusha. We soul in, give our Vanguard Twin Drive, and with the Busters we retire our opponent's really annoying grade 1, which will bite us in the ass if we don't get rid of it. So yeah, that's why Buster is just a really solid card. Just a retire and cool. So our opponent goes into their main finisher, which is Illuminal Dragon, and with Adamski, they shoot us for 1 more damage. Unfortunately, we do not get the defensive here, so we will have an incredibly hard time against our opponent right now. So, ouch. Now our opponent is deliberating a bit, and he calls down the heal from his hand. He attacks our interceptor with a heal, which basically shoots 5 damage away from us, which sucks. And he attacks with our Vanguard next. We PG the attack. I mean, this is basically the play we had to have done. So yeah, we barely survived that turn, but we are still be able to push for quite a bit of damage on this turn, since we can pump our Vanguard up to a decent power. And then we still have 2 attacks on the rearguard circles, and we check the trigger, and as you can see from our opponent's hand, he does not have enough to guard everything. So that is GG. As you can see, well, this game I had to speed it up since it's on Bandicam. So as you can see, there's still quite a lot of power, there's still a lot of multi-attacks that you can do with Bloodblack, and that was a decent game to showcase how the deck works and how powerful it can be. So yeah, that's all for today. Thank you for watching up to this point. I do pardon my stuttering, as this is still one of my first videos, and yeah, but overall, thank you. So if you like the video, hit the like button, and if you do, consider subscribing to me if you want to see some dumb kid do more Vanguard videos, whether it be Vanguard 0, Vanguard TCG. I'm planning to do a Genesis deck profile soon, so look forward to that. And yeah, thank you all. See ya.